Welcome everyone to today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is December 15th, 2022. This meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please let us know. Pursuant to Governor Baker's July 16, 2022 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31, 2023. This meeting of the ZBA is being conducted via in-person and remote participation and shall afford adequate alternative means of public access via Microsoft Teams by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. Then you punch in the ID number for the conference, which is 365-762-631. Hit the pound. Or you can join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue/hearing or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. We'll first have a roll call of all members to authorize this hybrid form
Mr.
of
Chair,
meeting.
we have a technical issue. We need to integrate the Teams meeting. Our microphone is muted and we can't unmute it. So we need just maybe a minute or two to rectify that. So
Okay.
that before we get too far, Teams can participate.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll put a hold on everything. I wouldn't doubt it. I don't know that for a fact. I didn't read
Test one. We're all set.
Hybrid form of meeting. All in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
That's good. Thank you. That's a unanimous decision. Anybody against? All right, all right. Okay, I should say that if any non-board member or any citizen wishes to participate in the call via the phone, please give us your name and the last four digits of your phone number for ID purposes. The format that we have, the hearing notice is read by the lady to my right. This is Sarah B. Clark. She's the PPO for the town of Chatham. That is the principal permitting officer. We would then have the individual who filed the application or their representative present. When that was done, we would ask for anybody either here in Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak in favor of the application to do so. We would then have any and all correspondence read. Then I would ask for anybody who is either here or again on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak either against or has a specific question to join the meeting. If there's any of that, there could very well be some rebuttal. Then we would have direct questions from the board members. When we're done with that, we'd close the meeting and go into deliberation. Deliberation is strictly amongst us unless a member introduces into the discussion an individual who might have had something to do with the previous various discussions. We would then have a vote in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Zoning boards, to be successful, you need to have a supermajority. In our case, there are 5 votes, so you need to have 4. There's only 2 exceptions, I should mention, to our situation. The number 1 exception is if we were doing a 40B, which is low-income housing. The Commonwealth dictates that that be a simple majority. And the other exception we have here, and you'll see later on today, is election of members of the board to the various officers. That is also a simple majority. Are there any questions? Paul?
I will move to approve the minutes of November 10th and November 17th as amended.
Dave Veach seconds.
That's a roll call vote. Buck?
Buck approves.
Paul?
Paul approves.
Dave Thompson approves.
Dave Veach approves.
I approve. That's a unanimous vote. Okay, Sarah, let's begin with 22-111, please.
Application number 22-111, the Fitz Family Trust, care of Christopher Cannon, P.O. Box 201, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 208 Cedar Street, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 13C, Block 16, Lot 1. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the installation of a new foundation and the construction of additions. The existing dwelling is nonconforming in that it is located 19.1 feet from the road where a 40-foot setback is required, and 11.2 feet from the westerly abutter. The existing shed is nonconforming in that it is located 16.2 feet from the easterly abutter. The existing garage will remain nonconforming, located 2.4 feet from the easterly abutter. The proposed addition will be nonconforming, located 11.2 feet from the westerly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The relocated shed will be nonconforming, and that it will be located 6.5 feet from the easterly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,577 square feet, 9.7%, and the proposed building coverage is 2,313 square feet, 14.2%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 16,320 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protected Bylaw.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Cannon, representing Steve and Cindy Fitz. I don't know if Cindy's on or not. I can't tell. Last time I could see her name. By the way, it's probably my fault that that happened with the MS thing. It happened last time I was here. So, sorry. I think this is fairly simple. We have an existing four-bedroom house. It's a historic house on Cedar Street. It's on the Loop. It's been seriously underused for a number of years, and I don't even think it has heat in it anymore. It needs a lot of work, and the Fitzes live across the street, and they purchased it as an investment property and as a way to house overflow when family comes to visit. So what we're looking to do is to maintain the existing historic building, which was put together in about 5 different segments over the course of the past 140 years. We're trying to maintain the look, but we are utilizing one detail on the front to create a new porch with dormer above it so that we can, work with the existing design and shield some of what will happen out back, which is to create more livable spaces and more modernized spaces. We'll rehab the inside as well. So we'll be taking the existing living room at the first floor and turning that into a master suite and pushing the living room to the back and doing a new kitchen and a new bedroom upstairs and a whole mess of other fun things. So I think this, while it's adding 4.5% coverage to the lot, it's still well under the, it's under the 15% that a lot this size would allow for. There is some wetlands adjacent. So off to the left of the property where the wetlands exist, no one will ever be living there. That is the lot line where we are the closest, and it's 11.2 feet from that. But I drew a line parallel with the 209-foot-long lot line, and I made sure that I didn't go any closer. So that's kind of where I started with this addition, and most of it is a product of trying to make it more livable, and we'll bring it up to speed with today's codes and particularly the codes, and just make it really nice house. So let me answer to the questions. The adequacy of the site. Again, it's a 16,320 square foot where 40,000 is required. The size of the parcel is actually really the norm. There are a lot of parcels, or a few parcels, that are much larger and conform to the 40,000. And while they may take up a good chunk of the area around there, they are by no means the norm. In this neighborhood, the average lot size is probably closer to 25 or 0.25 acres. So this is probably a little bit bigger than what seems to be the average. The building coverage is quite similar to, and building size is quite similar to the other houses in the neighborhood. So we're not looking to do anything different, from what's around the neighborhood. Compatibility, the size of the proposed structure, as I said, it's similar. Extent of the proposed increase in non-conforming nature of the structure. There is no increase in the non-conforming nature. It's just there are areas that are still also going to be put into the setbacks. It's very difficult to do anything other than that with a house that's got this orientation on a lot and is, again, most of this house is sitting in the setbacks in the front and the west side. Suitability of the site, including not limited to impact on neighboring properties. As I said, we're adjacent to the wetland, and if we need to do any kind of drainage, we will do that. I think conservation is going to guide that process. Currently, the mitigation planting is being designed for them, and the filing has not, to my knowledge, been made yet for conservation. So I think they'll guide the process on that. And we'll follow what their recommendations or requirements are. The impact of scale. and sighting and mass on the neighborhood. We're very cautious and actually, very happy with the way this worked out. We're very cautious to try and maintain the existing streetscape on this building. The building does go 2 feet higher, but we did it by making a ridge line that you can see that's 2 feet higher. Chantal, you're really good at this. Is that you, or is this Sarah? Whoever's doing it's really good. The new ridge beyond does a great job of shielding what's behind it, so it allows the streetscape to kind of maintain itself. Again, we did add the porch and the dormer off to the right, but you can see how it's derived from what is off to the left or west side of the house, and it really tries to work with it and create a balance that at the moment is a little bit off. Let's see, the compatibility of proposed use with neighboring uses, it's very compatible. It's a 4-bedroom house. I would imagine probably most of the houses are 3 or 4 bedroom in the neighborhood, so nothing changes there. It stays as a 4-bedroom house. The adequacy of method of sewage disposal, will be adding a new septic system in the front yard in the lower right-hand portion. That will be seeking a variance from the Board of Health. I spoke yesterday at length with Wendy Jones. That is the only spot on the site to put it. We also expect that in a number of years that that'll be abandoned and attached to sewer. So, she felt that this absolutely will be accepted by the health board, and she said it's really housekeeping sort of from her perspective, since it's the only place it could go. Impact on traffic flow and safety, I don't see where there would be any. It's a 4-bedroom house. It will maintain itself as one, so no real change there. Noise and litter, during construction, you'll see the normal noise and litter, but otherwise, for everyday use, no change. Adequacy of utilities, again, no change. The visual impact on the neighborhood, I don't see any change to that. I think, if anything, it's enhanced by the house being in better shape and for the next 25 to 30 years. And 12 is not applicable.
Thank you, Chris. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this application? Please indicate that you would like to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
I'll read the correspondence. The first is from Christina Bassett. She writes on December 15th, the CHC, that's Chatham Historical Commission, saw an application for 208 Cedar Street on December 6th. The commission determined that the home located at 208 was historically significant, but the proposed changes do not materially diminish the home's historical significance, and therefore a demo delay was not imposed. Then we have a note from Judith Giorgio, health agent for the town of Chatham. She writes on 12/13, I've reviewed for renovations this property. The renovations will not add septic flow to the existing 4-bedroom dwelling. However, a proposed new septic system, as shown on the plan, will encroach on the new foundation and will require approval by the BOH. And that's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone who would like to speak either against or has a specific question regarding this application? If so, please indicate now you'd like to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a question.
Okay, we'll have questions from the board. Buck?
Buck has no questions.
Bill?
The portion of the septic system that they brought up that's in the foundation, do you have room for all that and still able to get that variance that you need from them?
I spoke with Wendy about this. If I needed to shelf the foundation and put an area in there that couldn't be habitable, I could certainly do that. I don't think they're going to ask for that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any other questions.
Randy?
I have no questions.
Paul?
Not so much a question as a comment. In looking at the site plan, I don't think I've seen a site plan before which has as a benchmark nail in whiteboard on utility pole number 18. That's different. No questions.
That's what you get for big dollars.
Yeah.
Mr. Thompson?
Mr. Thompson has no questions for Mr. Cannon.
Dave Veach?
Dave Veach has no questions.
Okay, Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
And Buck votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
I vote yes. Deliberations, Bill?
Well, certainly not substantially more detrimental by the looks of that house over there, so if I were voting, I certainly would support it.
Randy?
I think it meets all the criteria. It's an improvement, and if I were voting, I would support it.
Paul?
Yes, it meets all the criteria, and I think it looks like a good project.
I agree with everything that has been said. It's a nice old house that you're doing some major improvements on. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with the previous, and it fits the design. Just it looks like it belongs there, basically.
Buck?
I have nothing to add.
Okay.
I guess my question would be in terms of your plan for construction, what does that look like, Chris?
I think right now it's probably a little late to consider anything for this particular season, though if somebody came about and they could begin the process, I think they probably would. The house has to be lifted up. That's going to take a few months. I'm sure that because of the neighborhood, if you needed to condition work happening through the summer season, I'm sure they'd be fine with that since they live across the street.
All right, then I will move to approve the application with the conditions that all construction activity and vehicles be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner, that between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction would be allowed, no work would be permitted on weekends, and construction activity would be between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay. We need a vote?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
Paul votes yes.
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. If I can just add one thing, 31 or 32 years ago, I came to this house. I was working for Michael Munson, and was tearing off wallpaper, and hadn't been back to the house for 30 some odd years. I will add that Michael put in my head the idea of going to college while we were there and said, you have to do it. And within a month, I had put myself in college. I arrived back to this house 2 years ago. She was tearing off wallpaper. So, coincidence? I don't know.
Hey,
You
I
figure
don't
it
know.
out.
I don't know.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Sarah, 22-112, please.
Application number 22-112, Highland Realty Trust, care of Andrew L. Singer, Esquire, P.O. Box 67, Dennisport, Mass. 02639. Owner of property located at 99 and 107 Highland Avenue. Also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 15E, Block 54, Lot 49, and 15E, Block 55, Lot 48. The applicant seeks dimensional variances from the buildable upland area required for a single-family dwelling and guest house on a proposed reconfigured lot and building coverage in excess of that which is allowed 10% for the proposed lot. The property requires 40,000 square feet of buildable upland for a single-family dwelling and a guest house for a property located in the R20 zoning district. A variance is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 10, and Section 8D2C of the protective bylaw.
Mr. Singer, does it make sense that I have Sarah read 22-113?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Application number 22-113, Highland Realty Trust, care of Andrew L. Singer, Esquire, P.O. Box 67, Dennisport, Mass. 02639. Owner of property located at 107 and 119 Highland Avenue. Also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 15E, Block 55, Lot 48, and Map 15E, Block 56A, Lot 45A. The applicant seeks dimensional variances from the allowable building coverage on the proposed reconfigured lot and encroachment on the easterly abutters setback. The reconfigured lot would allow for 2,850 square feet of building coverage, where 3,430 square feet is proposed. The property is located in the R20 zoning district. A variance is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 10, and Section 8D2C of the protective bylaw.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Andrew Singer, attorney in Dennisport, here on behalf of the applicant. With me in the audience is Tim Brady, who is the engineer who prepared the plans. Mr. Chairman, thank you for opening both, because it was going to be impossible for me to talk about one of these without the other. What I would like to, I gave you a summary of reasoning that I'd like to go through, and for the record, the plan that you have has calculations and tables for everything I'm going to be talking about. These are the two applications, and I'll tell you why we got the two applications, are for 3 adjacent properties, and all 3 properties are on that plan that you see up on the screen and that you have. 99, 107, and 119 Highland Avenue. Each of them is developed with 1 or more structures. There are a total of 4 dwelling units spread between the 3 properties. In a nutshell, what the applicants, and they're all commonly owned, so in a nutshell, what the applicants would like to do is to decrease the number of building lots from 3 to 2. They would like to decrease the number of dwelling units from 4 to 3. They would like to decrease the number of principal buildings from 3 to 2, and they would like to reduce the overall number of bedrooms on the 3 properties from 13 down to 12. So that's, in a nutshell, what they'd like to do. The question then is, how do we get there? And Tim used a very good word when we were getting ready for the meeting. He said, how we get there is awkward. And that is because we have 3 pre-existing non-conforming properties. We met extensively with community development staff about how to handle this, what would be able to present to you. And we talked about special permits, we talked about variances. Ultimately, staff determined that because we're changing, right now there are 3 pre-existing non-conforming properties. They're protected under 40A section, under 40A and under Chatham bylaw. With what we are proposing, by eliminating one of the properties, we're changing all 3 lots. So at the end of the day, the 3 grandfathered lots disappear, and you would wind up with 2 resulting lots, and those lots themselves will have some nonconformities. So staff determined that we need to apply for a variance. And the question then becomes, why 2 applications? So right now on that plan, on the left is 99 Chatham, Highland Avenue, and on the right is 119. In the middle is 107, and there's a house, which is where the cursor is now, and then in the back there is a guest house garage. So there's a property in the middle. What they would like to do, as you can see here, is to eliminate that middle lot, to attach what is now the guest house garage in the back of 107 to 99. And in removing the house at 107 and then building a conforming addition to the house at 119. To get there, we need several approvals. We need relief from this board. We need relief from the planning board to reconfigure the lots, which would be an A&R application, subject to if this board approves the variances. Board of Health approval will be needed on 99 Highland. Right now, there is a 4-bedroom restriction with the Board of Health. That needs to be adjusted because you'd be adding 2 bedrooms from the guest house in the back, and we'll be going to them. You see in my summary, and I just had this conversation with Sarah and Christina today, the applicant went to the CHC in July of 2020 for a demolition delay review of the house at 107, which was deemed historically significant. They imposed a 12-month delay. That delay expired in July of 2021. We all thought everything was fine. Learned just today, as did the town, we had all been working under the assumption that the governor's March 2020 order suspending permits, which, as you read, has been extended for hybrid meetings, that has expired. And interestingly, what we didn't realize is that the permits that were tolled under that March 2020 order were permits that were then in existence. There was apparently no tolling for permits that were granted after. Well, the historic review of this project for 107 in the middle was in July of 2020, so it was after March. The CHC regulations have that a project lapses if you haven't done the work within 2 years from the date it was issued. So July 2020 would be July 2022. The applicants have been working nonstop on plans, on working with staff, but in talking with Christine, because we're more than the 2 years, we will be going back to historic for the 107 house. So those are the other permits that are needed. But you guys are really the first line of where we need to know, if this is a doable, approvable project. And I'll go through all the criteria for that. And again, this is a these are variance applications, so there are two. I realize I'm talking about them together because, as I said, you can't really separate them. Happy to answer questions, which, do break them apart to the extent you have them. At the end of the day, you would have the two lots where 99 would have the house, would have a garage at the front, and would have the guest house in the back. And on 119, you would have a house with a garage. It would be an attached garage, which would be with that addition. As I noted, there will be some nonconformities, which is the reason why we're here. If everything was conforming, we wouldn't be here. It would be allowed by right, but there are still some nonconformities. So on the enlarged 99 Highland Avenue, it is going to become conforming as to lot frontage. There's a typo on the plan. The frontage for that lot right now is 99 feet. This will, in the table on the lower left, we just realized, it will be coming 100 feet, and so that will become conforming. It will, however, still be undersized for 2 dwelling units. There's going to be 35,000 square feet in the enlarged lot. Building coverage, interestingly, is going to decrease, but it's still going to be nonconforming. Today, the building coverage on 99 is 13.93. When you enlarge the lot with the new with the structure that's moving over, it'll be 13.42. So it's going down, but it's still above 10%. Now 119 Highland. That is going to remain nonconforming again as to building coverage for 2 reasons. One, though it's going to be a decrease again, just like 99, we're going to have a decrease in coverage here because we're adding land. It's going to go from 23.22 down to 15.55. Again, that's more than 10. And the proposed floor area of 3,430 square feet will be greater than 2,850. So again, they're reductions from, in many cases, from what's there today, but they are not conforming, so it does require relief. That gets us to the variance criteria relief, and respectfully submit that the proposal before you to reduce all these densities will and does satisfy the criteria for a variance as follows. Respectfully submit that in this instance, the hardship is owing to circumstances relating to the unique situation in which we have, in 2 cases, 3 adjacent commonly owned grandfathered and improved lots with multiple grandfathered and protected principal and accessory structures, including the 4 dwelling units. Each of these 3 properties is allowed to be independently redeveloped by special permit at the existing densities. And in fact, some of them have been before you over the years for various rebuildings and expansions and work. So those 3 properties could continue to come to you for special permits, as allowed by the bylaw and by state law. However, to do what we're trying to do requires a variance. And this variance is looking at this, as I wrote, holistically. The owners were looking at this as it's 3 properties with 4 dwelling units, but they're looking at it as a unit. And I realize that's for practicality purposes, not for the zoning purposes, which is why we're having this conversation. Respectfully suggest that not being able to rearrange the pre-existing non-conforming conditions to eliminate some and reduce others, as well as reduce density, will be a hardship, which would be both a substantial practical and financial hardship to the petitioner and the neighborhood, and that satisfies the hardship criteria of the bylaw in this very unique situation. The properties have been long developed for single-family uses. The guest house, as I noted, on 10, which is now in the middle at 107, would be transferred to 99. And there are 3 bedrooms in the existing 107 house. When that's demolished, the addition at 119 would have 2 bedrooms. That's where you have the resulting decrease of 1 bedroom. As for 99 Highland Avenue, there will be no structural change at all. The request before you for 99 is merely lot line and the numbers and the coverages. The frontage, as I noted, will become conforming, and we'll eliminate that. The setbacks of the guest house, which is being relocated by law, but not physically, that's going to be conforming. So the structural changes when we make 99 bigger will be conforming, and the only nonconformity there will be the building coverage, but it will be less than it is today. As far as 119, when we slide down there, with that, the addition itself is conforming, and you can see it there, labeled proposed addition. The only nonconformities, again, on this lot will again be the building coverage and the overall size of the house on the expanded lot, and any setbacks that are over there on the end of the property remain. It is conforming. It's conforming from front setback, rear setback, and it's just, again, those coverages which are changing, but they are going down from what exists today. This is, I go back to Tim's word of awkward, because the two resulting lots would be getting bigger, and so it changes, all the numbers get all scrambled up, but we believe that when you look at them, all of this is a net benefit for the reasons we said. The parking areas are going to remain, driveways will remain, you're going to have no issues. We don't believe there's going to be any detriment to the public good or derogation from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. The overall land area is not changing. It is just having the intensity of use being decreased, 1 less lot, 1 less building, 1 less overall bedroom. As I mentioned, the septic system for 99 will be revised to accommodate changes in the sewage flow, and we will be going to the Board of Health. The Title V system for 119 will also be revised to accommodate the change in flow. If necessary, that will be reviewed by the Board of Health. It may not need to be for that one. We know 99 will. There will be no negative impact to existing residential traffic flow and no increase of congestion in the public ways. There will be no decrease of safety in traffic as well. All utilities are going to remain on the site. They're there, they'll be there, and there will be no proposed change in use whatsoever. It's still going to stay as residential, just in 1 less house. We submit there'll be no nuisance, odors, sounds, or other negative impacts created by the proposal. For those reasons, we respectfully request that you find on both applications that the variance criteria are satisfied and grant the relief to allow the reconfiguration as proposed. Thank you.
Is there anyone here on Microsoft Teams who would like to speak in favor of these 2 applications? If so, please indicate now. I'd like to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Okay, the correspondence. First, we have a note from Christina Bassett, December 15th. And she writes, the CHC heard an application for a full demolition for 107 Highland Ave in July of 2020. The home was found historically significant, and a 12-month demolition was imposed. The demolition never commenced, and the 2 years that they had to commence the work has expired. The owners need to reapply to the CHC. Then we have a note from Judith Giorgio, health agent. On 12/13, I have reviewed the plan to reconfigure the 2 lots and demo the dwelling at 107 Highland. The new lot will need review for septic purposes. Existing floor plans for the dwellings must be reviewed. It may be required that an IA septic system is installed in accordance with the Board of Health's nitrogen loading regulation. Then we have a note from Marilyn and Brian Thompson, 139 Seaview Street. They write on December 6th. We are abutters to the property. We have always found the applicants to do excellent quality work and maintain their property very professionally. We would support the application with the conditions the staff outline in their, quote, staff notes, unquote. It is a densely populated neighborhood, and these conditions would help mitigate any traffic and noise issues. That's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against these two applications or has a specific question? If so, please indicate now you'd like to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a question.
Okay, let's have questions from the board. Randy?
I don't have any questions.
Oh.
I'm having a little trouble on the conditions. What is it that you're saying is owing to the circumstances relating to soil conditions, shape, or topography of the land or structures, especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located?
In this case, in my opinion, it is all of the structures on the 3 lots. It's not a case of wetlands. It's not a case of topography or normally shape. But 40A Section 7 talks about structures, and you look at what can or cannot be done with those structures. In this case, we have 4 structures, of which 3 are 5 structures, of which 4 are dwellings and 1 is an accessory. Excuse me. And the hardship I see is not being able to reconfigure them in such a way that actually reduces densities and reduces nonconformities and eliminates nonconformities. And so in this situation, you could continue all 3 properties by special permit individually, but you could not, which would actually result in more nonconformities and more densities remaining. And so respectfully, we believe that the hardship is looking at all of the structures as a total. Or you could break them up into the 2 applications, but they're all together.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Thompson?
Dave Thompson has no questions.
Dave Veach?
This is a small thing, but I'm just curious, Sarah, maybe, I noticed on the application for 119, you noted that the existing setback nonconformity to the easterly abutter will lose its protection once the lot is reconfigured and recorded without the grant of a variance. And is that saying if we grant a variance, it can be maintained and yeah, tell me what that means. Thanks.
That is correct. It was the same thing as Stage Harbor last time, if there had been a house there. Once you change the lot lines at a non-conforming lot, all of that protection that's afforded
Okay,
to
yeah.
the non-conforming structure or lot
Goes away.
is lost without the grant of a variance. Because
So,
that would be
so
allowing
were we to grant a variance, the protection would still be in place with respect to that?
for the 12.7 feet off of that
And
property.
if not, well, if we don't grant the variance, the lot doesn't change either, does it?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And
That's
that is
all.
why we'd be going to the planning board after, because, and I've done this before in other instances as well, you need your relief to allow everything else to continue. Yes.
Buck?
Buck has no questions.
Bill?
Well, I think you just answered my one question about the procedure. I'm just wondering the process of why you're here first before you get the lot lines changed or anything else. And
For the exact reason that was just discussed, if we change the lot lines first, we destroy the protection. So then I'd be coming to you with unprotected buildings, not grandfathered structures and coverages. And so in order to preserve, you don't want to obviously create illegality. So we need your permission first. It's the first step. We have to get everything else, but that's why.
then given the fact that there's still nonconformities on both of these lots, assuming you got through the rest of the process, is this something that would come back to us? No.
Unless they were to do additions,
Okay.
then it would be, if they were to do additions that would further encroach or things like that, anything that would trigger ZBA. But what they're asking for is a specific, so they're asking the dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaw to be varied for this particular proposal.
Okay.
The only change, the only structural change being the addition to 119.
Right.
Everything else just stays as is.
Okay, that's all I had, thanks.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Buck approves.
Paul approves.
Dave Thompson approves.
Dave Veach approves.
I approve. Okay, deliberations. Paul?
Well, I guess as you could tell from my questioning, I have difficulty seeing how this comes under the criteria for a variance. We have a lot of non-conforming lots that exist adjacent to each other, some of which are in common ownership. There's already an existing use of the property, and without getting to the question of hardship, I don't see how the first criteria is satisfied. The second criteria with respect to hardship, financial or otherwise, the property is purchased on the basis of where it is now and what it's being used for, so I'm having trouble from that viewpoint.
Dave Thompson?
Well, the only thing I can say is, it's gonna look a lot nicer than it looks right now. It's just, I think it's a win-win for the neighborhood, it's for the town, and for the owners of the property. It's gonna be spectacular.
Dave Veach?
And I will vote in
Oh, sorry.
favor. That's all right, that's all right. I will vote in favor of it.
Dave Veach?
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm as equipped to see it in the way that Paul is seeing it. I think, I mean, when I certainly looking at the overall project as presented, and especially with respect to reductions and nonconformities and the increasing lot sizes gets closer to what zoning, although R40 in this area, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but, so the overall effect, I think is certainly beneficial to the neighborhood, to the town. I think you could argue with respect to, it maps closer to the zoning bylaw than what's presently there. So I can accept that a hardship would exist were we not to grant this variance. And I also am willing and able to concur with Andrew's presentation that it's the current configuration of those buildings on the lot, et cetera, I can find it meets the first criteria. So I will support these. Thanks.
Buck?
Well, I commend Mr. Singer for an excellent presentation, concise, hit all the points, and get a gold star for that. Unfortunately,
No, you can stop now. Keep going. Move on. I've had a rough 2 weeks with Mr. Oaks in there.
and this is the time of the year when we're supposed to be overly generous, and unfortunately, the variance and the hardship requirement, while you did a valiant job defending it and presenting your reasons for, I wasn't able to accept it, so I will be voting no.
Bill?
Yeah, I mean, my first question was also that not only, and Paul brought it up, that the first criteria of the variance isn't really even addressed in your text. 2 and 3 are. I think frankly, the hardship is a stretch. There is no answer to number 1, and I'm not sure you answered it frankly when Paul asked the question. And I think, while I think fully understand the idea, it seems, to make some sense to do it. I don't see how you have met the criteria, and if I were voting, I would likely vote no.
Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I feel very strongly that property owners should be able to do what they want with their property, but it has to be within the bounds of the law. And as much as I agree with Mr. Veach and Mr. Thompson, yeah, it would look nicer, but you didn't write anything about number one, which I'm just, for the benefit of the listeners, I'm gonna just read off what we are required to find, okay? So we're required to find that owing to the circumstances relating to the soil conditions, shape, or topography of the land, and especially affecting such land, but not affecting the zoning district in which it's located, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance or bylaw would involve a substantial hardship. So it has to be because of those factors about the land. So even if we could find a hardship, how do we get past that? We don't. And we're not just a bunch of citizens sitting here saying, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, it'll look nice. We're stuck with the law. And so for that reason, as much as I do respect property owners' rights, I just wouldn't be able to vote for it if I were voting.
So Paul, it circles back to you.
Could I have a point of order, Mr. Chairman? If I could?
Sure.
Just what Ms. Potas just read, you, in reciting the legal criteria, you unfortunately left out two words from 48.7, which is those circumstances relating to the land or structures. And or structures is in 48 Section 10 expressly. And with all due respect, on page 4, paragraph 1 of my summary of reasoning, I did discuss, you may not accept it, but I did discuss those criteria, discussing specifically the hardship and the circumstances relating to the unique conditions of the structures on the lot. So that is part of the law, and I believe you don't have to agree ultimately, but you're here, a variance is to vary the bylaw. It is when something is before you that will not cause a substantial detriment, doesn't derogate, but there are these unique conditions based on the land or structures. And that's where I respectfully believe that in this instance, we have those conditions because you have the multiple structures and you have the multiple configurations of the lots. So that is just where, and that's what we were discussing, and that is what I believe still does and can justify the variance.
There's nothing about those structures that is different from the whole neighborhood. They elected to put them there. One was only 5 years ago. So I didn't think that really mattered that much.
So Paul, if we were to take a straw vote, would you be yes or no?
On a straw vote, I would be no.
No. So there's two no's. Never mind how I would vote, but.
Do you have any thoughts on the application, Mr. Chairman?
Well, unfortunately, I understand what these two gentlemen are saying, because I think it would be a big plus to the neighborhood. But what the overriding thing for me would be is what Buck and Bill and Randy and Paul have mentioned. So I couldn't justify a yes vote, even though I would like to.
Okay.
I really would, because I think it's a great plan, but I just can't do it.
If I could, as a final statement before I would ask to withdraw both applications, make one final plug for it. Again, looking at what you do as a Board of Relief, as a zoning Board of Appeals, where you look at unique situations. And while, yes, there are other houses and other lots and other sizes, this is one where you don't have people coming in before you where they own 3 adjacent properties and they would like to make those changes. It's just, that is part of the uniqueness of this, is that you have, in effect, a compound that is before you with all of the structures as they are laid out on those lots with the setbacks. Again, probably beating a dead horse, but I do believe in this case that you could find it. If this final plea from me does not work for at least two of you, then I would ask to withdraw without prejudice the two applications. If it does work, then I don't want to withdraw.
Well, anyone changing their mind? I see no change. So,
Then so requested for 22-112 and 22-113.
I'll move to grant the request to withdraw without prejudice as to both applications.
And Dave Veach seconds.
can we do that, Sarah, and with one vote, or do we need two separate votes?
I would prefer two votes, please.
Okay?
All right.
So
I will start with 22-121 and move, no, excuse me.
The 112.
22-112, move to grant the requested withdrawal without prejudice.
Dave Veach seconds.
Buck approves.
Paul approves.
Dave Thompson approves.
Dave Veach approves.
I approve.
And as to application number 22-113, I'll move to grant the requested withdrawal without prejudice.
Dave Veach seconds.
Buck approves.
Paul approves.
Dave Thompson approves.
Dave Veach approves.
And I approve. That's a unanimous vote also.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, Sarah. 22-115, please.
Application number 22-115, Robert Carafas, P.O. Box 202, Accord, Mass. 02018, owner of property located at 254 Ridgevale Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 6C, Block 112, Lot S22. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling in a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. The existing dwelling was non-conforming in that it was located 23.2 feet from Ridgevale Road and 14.5 feet from Soundview Ave. The proposed dwelling is non-conforming in that it is located 23.1 feet from Ridgevale Road and 14.6 feet from Soundview Ave. And the proposed building coverage is 2,099 square feet, 13.3%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 15,836 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protected Bylaw.
All right, my name's Bob Carafas. I'm the owner of 254 Ridgevale. I am also the builder. My family, my grandparents and some of my uncles bought three or four lots on Ridgevale diagonally across the street from the property back in 1946. So the family's been down here in this neighborhood since then. My brother has a house uptown. My other brother has a house he built over on Happy Valley, and my sister owns presently the family property on Ridgevale across the street. And I'm here seeking a partial demolition and pre-existing non-conforming structure and reconstruction within the road setback. Increasing the building coverage by about 67 square feet, and I'm furthering the encroachment on the setback on Ridgevale by about 1.2 feet. The house has been demolished already. I don't know if you're aware of that, but originally, I came in, we demoed the house, started building, and I realized that it was non-conforming. So I coming before you today to kind of go over that and see if that I can continue to move forward. The building coverage, the adequacy of the size of the site, and including but not limited to the maximum lot or building coverage and setbacks. The building coverage of the previous building was 2,032 square feet. The lot's 15,836 square feet, which originally had 12.8% coverage. That has since moved up to, by, like I said before, 67 square feet, which brought me to 13.3% coverage. Building height is increased, but not by the maximum ridge elevation allowed. The road setbacks, the original setback on Ridgevale was 23.1 feet. It is now moved to 21.9 feet. The previous setback on Soundview was at 14.6 feet. It's still at 14.6 feet, the garage. And the setback at Soundview at the new, where the corners changed, is now at 22.2 feet. Not, still less than the 14.5 at the garage. The size of the house is consistent, I believe, with the neighborhood. The house has a jog, so where the encroachment is happening is at the, on the Ridgevale side where it says 42.5. Where that set jog back from Ridgevale is about a foot now. It used to be 4 feet back. It's moved forward 3 feet. And because Ridgevale has an arc to it, that tip, that corner is now closer than the 23.1 feet it was before. And if you want to go to the overlay, Sarah, maybe it's a little clearer there. So yeah, you can see in that corner, the green represents the new building, the new house, and the red was the existing structure. And on that same point, the only thing I'd point out is that there was a bay window in the front that the engineer, when he did the survey of the house, didn't include on this, which projected out about 1.4 inches. You can see the bay there in the picture. And if you look at the as-built drawing, the architect did one more, yeah. I roughly scaled it out in that corner that it was about 1.4. Yep. And that's a rough scale, just based off of the architect's drawing of the existing conditions before the demolition. Suitability of the site, including not limited to the impact on neighborhood properties or on the natural environment, including slopes, vegetation, wetlands, groundwater bodies. I don't believe there's any impact. I don't think that's applicable. The scale of the house is consistent with the neighborhood. Compatibility of the proposed use of the neighborhood uses, there's no change in the use of what it was before and what it is going to be, just simple house. The sewage hasn't changed, same septic system's being used as before. There's no impact on traffic, no impact on noise or litter. And the adequacy of utilities are still the same, perfectly suitable. And the visual impact on the neighborhood is not really applicable in this case. Neither is question 12 of the floodplain is not applicable in this situation. So I think that's all I have for now.
Is there anyone here or on Microsoft Teams that would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate now you'd like to speak.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
I'll read the correspondence. First is a memo from Judith Giorgio, the Chatham's health agent. She writes on 12/13, I've reviewed the renovations at this property. The renovations will not add septic flow to the existing 3-bedroom dwelling and are acceptable at this time. This is a memo. This is from Susan DeVito, and her address is 238 Ridgevale Road. She writes on, well, it was received on November 1st. She writes, the new house at 254 Ridgevale Road is directly across from our house at 238. Our family has been in this neighborhood for 60 years. We are very pleased with the improvements he has made to the house. The new house is an asset to our neighborhood. He was also a considerate neighbor during the construction process. We think the building is charming and very appropriate to the neighborhood. We think that our former next-door neighbor, Eleanor Greenhall, would be as pleased as we are by the appearance of the house. And this is a note from Mary Ann, a lady with the same name as our applicant. Is she somehow related to you?
Sister, my sister.
Sister, okay. She writes on 10/28, I'm writing on behalf of Robert, owner of the property. I own a neighboring cottage at 273, essentially across the street. I'm also Bob's sister. My family has been in Chatham for 75 years since my grandparents first purchased land and constructed our cottage in 1946. My mother and father bought our family cottage at 273 from my grandparents in 1969 and summered with their 6 kids in a 2-bedroom, 480-square-foot cottage for years. The cottage still stands. I own it today. Chatham certainly holds a special place in all of our hearts. It's part of my family's DNA. Me and 3 of my siblings, including Bob, have purchased and renovated and or built homes in Chatham. Bob bought our neighbor's home, who we knew as Wonk, and has constructed a beautiful home this past year, one that is fitting to the neighborhood, one that preserves the neighborhood, quote-unquote, cottage-style aesthetic. I'm certainly happy to see the investment in the neighborhood and thrilled my brother and his children will be just across the street from me so we can continue to make family memories and maintain our Chatham/Ridgevale beach tradition. His work on the property is a vast improvement, considering the property sat vacant for years and was run down. It is beautiful in my view. I hope you too are happy with this investment in Ridgevale Road neighborhood. Then we have a note from Paul Dennehy. Paul is at 257 Ridgevale. He writes on October 30th, I'm writing to you to express my support. The home was designed and built with a very appealing soft look. It blends in well with the other homes on the street and adds character and charm. And if you have any questions, please contact me. That's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone here or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak either against this application or has a specific question? If so, please indicate now you'd like to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a question.
Okay, then we'll have a question from the board. Dave Thompson, any questions?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No questions.
Dave H.
No, I don't have any questions, Tim.
Buck.
So I've got a lot of prints here,
Yes.
and I've got a print on the lower right-hand corner says sheet number 1 dated 12/9/21, and then there's another sheet number 1 dated a year earlier. Was the set of prints drawn 12/9/21 the ones that were given to the town for the building permit?
Would you mind if I take a quick, just look at what you're looking at? Okay, so that's, yeah. That's the, those were the.
I'm sorry, but what, you must answer off the microphone.
You can only look at it.
And what was the other drawing? Those are the as-built. That was the original house, the existing, sorry.
So your answer to Mr. Upson's question?
The first drawing was the construction drawings that you showed me. The second was the existing conditions of the house before it was demolished.
But my question was the prints dated 12/9/21, were those the ones that were given to the town when you applied for the building permit?
No, they were updated.
They were updated?
I believe they were updated, yes.
Thank you.
Bill?
This is probably a question for Jay. When did you apply for the building permit?
They received a building permit for dormers and interior renovation and some foundation repair. And during the process, the foundation repair became a foundation replacement and a demolition. Mr. Karafis didn't realize he had was required to get a special permit to proceed, and he was operating under the building permit, which didn't call for any demolition. So when we became aware of it, then we reached out to him and told him he had to go through this process to.
And that was just fairly recently?
Oh, yeah, that's still ongoing, but yeah.
Okay, I don't really have any other questions.
Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Jay, if you would, how did you become aware of it?
We actually became aware of it from a tip from the assessor's office, who said they went down there and they didn't have a permit for a demo, and could I send them a copy of the demolition permit? When we're at foundation, a lot of times the permit's not on site. It's supposed to be on site throughout construction, so we can refer to it to see exactly the scope of work. We process a lot of permits. So when we go to a site, we're looking at the quality of construction, the methods of construction, but we also want to refer to the permit and the plans to make sure what's being done was what was permitted. We were out to this site for inspections, but we didn't pick up on it until the assessors tipped us off.
Thank you. And sir, if you would, you said you were a builder?
I'm the builder of this, yes.
Just of this?
Yes.
So you're not as a general contractor? You don't build
No.
other houses? Okay,
No.
so it was just a mistake. Thanks.
Paul?
I think the last two dialogues answered my questions.
Okay.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Buck approves.
Paul approves.
Dave Thompson approves.
Dave Veach approves.
Okay, deliberations. Dave Each.
You know, I think that despite the fact there may be some glitches in the process, what they're asking for is a 1.2 feet, being 1.2 feet closer to the layout of Ridgevale Road than the existing house was. You know, if this had all come to me, initially, I wouldn't have had any problem with that, and I still don't. I think that it's and I don't fault, you know, it's a process, and sometimes things go awry and some things change, and I certainly could support this. I'm certainly not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what was there. I think the project as a whole is an improvement over what was there, and I will, it meets all of our criteria, and I'll support it.
Buck?
Well, if they had come to us, I'm sure we would have approved it. I guess the question is it done with malice? And I don't feel that way at all, so I will support it.
Bill?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's pretty straightforward as far as the fact that this should have come to us. I mean, I go by there a lot. I know Randy and I both live close by and saw the demolition occur and kept thinking in my own mind, why aren't they coming to us? You know, why aren't we seeing this? And there it went, and the house went up, and it's certainly not more substantially detrimental. I think it's a really fine-looking house. And I think I would probably tend to agree with Buck here that, you know, overall, it's probably something that, you know, maybe, you know, slip by, and if voting, I would probably reluctantly support it.
Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm not going to repeat what's been said. I agree with everything that's been said. And I was wondering what was going on with it, but I figured, you know, that it probably was in conforming in every way. So that's why we didn't see you. So in any event, good luck with it.
Thank you.
Paul?
I agree with the previous comments. I don't think there's any intentional attempt to avoid our regulations. This was simply an error, so. Given the history of the family with the property and the neighbors, I have no problem with it.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson agrees with everything that has been said. Little mistake.
I'll move to approve the application as submitted. I don't think we need any conditions in this particular case, since it's been done.
It's a little late for conditions.
Dave Beach, second.
Buck approves.
All approves?
Dave Thompson approves.
Dave Beach approved.
And I approve, that's a unanimous vote.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time
Okay.
and understanding.
It wasn't staked was the first clue.
22-117, please. Sarah.
Application number 22-117, William and Perry Stupera, care of Paul Muldoon, 571 Route 28, Harwichport, Mass. 02646. Owners of property located at 105 Woodcarver Knoll. Also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 11D, Block 41, Lot F11. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of a covered entry and fireplace bump out. The existing dwelling and proposed additions will be non-conforming and that they are located within the 50-foot setback to the Coastal Conservancy District. The existing building coverage is 1,713 square feet, 17.1%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,768 square feet, 17.6%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 10,027 square feet of buildable upland, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protected Bylaw.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Muldoon from Muldoon Architects, here representing Bill and Perry Stupera from 105 Woodcarver Lane. We have a small project here where the majority of the existing house sits within the 50-foot Conservancy District, and we have a small buildable area of land on a relatively sizable lot. The scope of work here includes an extension of a current covered overhang at the front door. On the western side elevation, there is a brick patio and a brick stoop that will be removed and replaced with a wood deck, and the existing roof overhang will be extended to cover that wood deck, as you see in the elevation here. On the southern side, we have a small fireplace bump out that will cantilever from the existing first floor, a one-story structure projecting out a small portion to accept the gas fireplace. Other areas of improvement, we're adding a small areaway for added light and air into the basement area. As described, the lot coverage sits at 17.1%, and we'll be going up to 17.6%, about 70 square feet. With that, I'll take any questions or go right into the criteria.
Please.
The adequacy of the site, so we do have a rather large lot in comparison with the neighboring properties at 56,000 square feet. The buildable upland at 10,000 square feet, again, 17.1 to 17.6 increase in lot coverage. The neighboring properties, this lot sits sort of right in the middle of that cul-de-sac area where we have a larger lot and we have two slightly smaller lots. But our house is the smallest in this area by way of net square footage. The extent of the proposed increase in nonconforming nature of the structure, there's no change in use, and 70 square feet of addition is all. Suitability of the site, there's no impact on neighboring properties. We are in the 50-foot Conservancy District. As per our conservation hearing last night, we were approved through an NOI to follow the process and their oversight. Impact and scale, we're very small here. A small addition for the gas fireplace bump out and a small extension for a roof overhang at the entry door. Compatibility of the proposed use of the neighbors, there's no change in use, remains a single family residence. Adequacy of the method of sewage disposal, no change. Impact of traffic flow and safety, again, no change. Noise and litter, no change there. Adequacy of the utilities, no change.
Is there anyone here on Microsoft Teams that would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate now you'd like to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Okay, I'll read the correspondence. First, we have a memo from Judith Giorgio, Board of Health. 12/13, I've reviewed the plan to add a covered entryway and fireplace bump. The change does not increase the sewage flow or encroach on the existing septum. I have no objections or concerns. Then we have an email. This is from Jeff Capello, and he writes on November 19th, and he's at 112 Woodcarver Knoll. Just wanted to let you know that as neighbors, we are supportive of their proposed changes to their home. The changes will improve the look of their home and also add to the neighborhood without negatively impacting the area. Then we have an email. This is from Joan Green. She writes on November 15th, I am a next-door neighbor at 105 Woodcarver Knoll. I live at 111. I am a next-door neighbor, yeah, okay. I am fully supportive of their plans to renovate, Joan Green. And then we have one from, this is another email. This is from Julie Gerber Warzala, and she writes on November 14th. I'm one of Bill and Perry's neighbors. They have been showing us the plans they have for renovating their house, and I'm just writing to let you know that we are in support of the project. We're happy to have a family in the house as opposed to a rental property, and we are happy to see them making improvements. And that's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone here on Microsoft Teams who would like to speak either against this or has a specific question? If so, indicate now you'd like to join the meeting.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a question.
Okay, then we'll have questions from the board. Buck?
Buck has no questions.
Bill?
No questions.
No questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Nor do I have any questions.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Each seconds.
Buck approves.
All approves?
Dave approves.
Dave Each.
I approve. Okay, Bill?
Yeah, I would support this. This is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, and good luck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Meets the criteria, and I would support it if I voted.
Yes, I agree. They're minor changes. No reason to feel that there's any substantial change to the neighborhood.
I agree. I will support.
I as well.
Me too.
I'll move to grant the application as submitted. I don't think I see a need for conditions on this property.
Dave Each seconds.
Buck approves.
Paul approves?
Dave Thompson approves.
Dave Each approves.
And I approve. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, well, we need to read it anyway. 12-121, please.
Application number 22-121, Eric and Teresa Peterson, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owners of property located at 45 Hardings Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14C, Block 30, Lot 21. The applicant seeks to modify special permit number 22-033 granted on May 12, 2022, which allowed for the demolition of the existing dwelling, partial demolition of an accessory structure, and the construction of a new dwelling. The applicant now seeks to modify this special permit to allow for the demolition of the garage with living space and the construction of a new detached garage with living space. The existing accessory structure is non-conforming in that it is located 10.8 feet from the southerly abutter and 16.2 feet from the easterly abutter. The proposed garage with living space will remain non-conforming, being located 10.8 feet from the southerly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 33,258 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. The approved building coverage will remain 3,251 square feet, 9.8%. The lot contains 33,170 square feet of buildable upland in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D2B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Well, we don't seem to have the applicant or a representative here, so I think we'll go on with the meeting, and if they should appear before we're done, we'll hear it. If not, Oh, that's right. So, next order of business would be a report from the nomination committee for officers for next year. Sure.
Mr. Nixon, a very, very long meeting was held via telephone regarding the continuation of the board's present officers. If you don't mind, we suggest that you continue, David Nixon, continue as chairperson, followed by Attorney Paul Semple as vice chair, and Mr. Buck Upson as clerk of the corporation. This was a meeting that was held with two of the three Davids, David Veach and David R. Thompson, who was acting as chairperson.
Thank you.
I will second the nominations.
Are there any other nominations?
Who would dare?
Hello, Mr. Riley. So we'll have a vote, please. And remember, this doesn't have to be a supermajority.
Well, that takes all the fun out of it. Buck votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Dave Thompson votes yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you very much. We're sorry to disturb you, Mr. Riley, but
Well, I know I was last on the agenda. So I figured, well, showing up at 3:30 would be plenty of time.
well, Sarah has read the application,
All right, then let me.
and we're ready. Mr. Riley, I hope you're going to show your tie to the audience, because if there was a contest, if you would win the prize for the ugliest tie I think I've ever seen. I've got one on that's a nice one.
Dave, this involves a charity, which you're probably not familiar with.
Oh, who? Respectful.
I proudly display it.
Please.
All right, so this application is a result, as the sheriff in Cool Hand Luke noted, there was a failure to communicate. And so, as you may recall, the original application called for the demolition of the existing residence and then a reduction in size of the garage so that it would remain in compliance with the building coverage. So the builder always anticipated tearing the garage down to the foundation and building up again. Unfortunately, he didn't pass that information along to the architect. And then the architect, because he didn't know it, couldn't tell me. So the application came in just to remove a small part of the rear so that coverage wouldn't exceed the allowed coverage, which I think is 10%. In any event, then when the contractor went to the building department to get a building permit to completely demolish the garage, it was pointed out to him that the special permit that was granted did not include complete demolition, only the removal of the last 10 or 12 feet of the garage. And so we were requested, although it was more in the sense of an order, if we wanted to actually tear the building down, we had to come back and modify the special permit that had previously been granted. And so the garage, the plans that were submitted, the elevations and floor plans that were submitted for the garage at the time of our last application are what is going to be built today. There's been no change in either exterior design or the floor plan. But this modification would give the contractor the ability to bring the building down to the first floor deck of the foundation. So that would be our application.
Okay.
I can go through the criteria if you want.
I don't think that's necessary, but thank you. I would ask that anybody here or on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak in favor of this application to please indicate now they'd like to speak.
There's no one that wishes to speak in favor.
The correspondence is from Judith Giorgio, health agent, on 3/7. I've reviewed the plans to reconstruct the one-bedroom garage. The floor plan provided shows a second floor sitting area. The entrance to this area must be a 6-foot cased opening to minimize privacy, so as to not meet the definition of a bedroom. The property is connected to the sewer and is approved for 5 bedrooms in total. That's the extent of that. Is there anyone here or on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak either against or has a specific question about this application?
There is no one that has a question or wishes to speak in opposition.
So questions, Randy?
I have no question.
No questions.
I have no questions.
I'm just curious as to how we could have avoided, how this, I mean, I understand about miscommunication, but, I mean, I looked at all this and realized, well, what this comes down to is whether they use the old framing materials or whatever, or not. You know, I just don't know how, I mean, it seems a little extravagant to need to come back here to get that kind of approval.
Well, there were additional legal fees, but that's what we like the best.
So that's the problem, or a problem.
And the town made another buck, but when you consider all the work Sarah and everybody else. have put
Besides,
in-
it's Christmas time. It's Christmas time.
With the chair's indulgence, I have a question for the building commissioner in regards to building the house.
Sure.
It's not directly related to the garage. It has to do with the construction crew that's there and their.
Well, that's relative to what might happen with the garage, sure.
So I received a call from an immediate abutter that was less than pleased with the the choice of words, I think comes under vulgar, loud and often for the construction project from this crew that started, well, 8-9 months ago. And so the question was if they were to, because I suggested they call Sarah, which I understand they did. Do they call the building inspector or the building commissioner, or is that something that's outside the bounds of the conditioning of a project?
Yeah, I think it's outside the bounds. I've had this similar situation, Buck. And what I did is I called the builder. And I said, look, we have a problem with your crew. And here's what the problem is. Would you please take care of it? And that's what happened.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, we received the complaint, and I did reach out to the builder and let him know that we had displeased neighbors with the language that was going on the site.
Very much appreciated, thank you.
And on another note, just the plans for the garage, it's labeled guest house, but it's not allowed to be a guest house. It can't
Right,
have
it's not a
cooking.
guest house.
Can't have cooking in it, but it's labeled guest house.
Yeah, we try to rein Roger in, but he called it a guest house last time we were here too, so. But but I'll bring it to the attention of the property owner as well.
Oh, Roger White.
All right. Okay.
I
Have
have
any
no,
questions?
I have no questions.
It's okay.
So I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Buck approves.
All approves?
Dave Thompson approves.
Dave Veach approves.
I do too. Deliberations, Paul.
I guess, just want to make sure that everybody understands that's not a guest house, and when somebody is subsequently looking at those plans and thinking, oh, here's my guest house, I remember that.
I've notified the Hoyts several times that it's not a guest house, and I've notified my clients that it's not a guest house.
So how come nobody can notify the guy that keeps putting that on there?
Well, you know, there's this inertia thing. When you reach a certain age, sometimes it's tough to get a person to change direction. So we went through the same thing when we came through the first application. And so, I mean, it's just not a guest house, period.
Well, we could take care of that inertia by saying no, because it says guest house, and see if he comes
Oh.
back with it when it
Oh,
doesn't
the-
say that.
The
I
plan
mean,
says guest house, but, you know, the plan doesn't go on record. Your decision goes on record.
And if somebody's following through and coming back to the file and looking at the file, they're gonna see guest house.
I know, but all you have to do is put, this is not a guest house in your decision, and that would be the end of it.
I appreciate that suggestion. So I will move, I'm going to vote favorably, but I am gonna put that condition on there.
This is not a guest house.
That's correct. This is not a guest house.
With deliberations.
We're deliberating. I think it's a nice looking garage. I felt that probably the owners were waiting to see how the house looked before they designed the garage. That's, sorry, but
No, it's exactly the same. We submitted elevations and floor plans for the garage with our original application, and these are the same.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can certainly support this. It's not substantially more detrimental to rebuild the garage entirely than to use what was there. So I will support it.
Another question for the commissioner. Maybe a month ago, you educated me that the state or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts interprets a blueprint as what the architect writes. And if it's a studio, even if it looks like a bedroom, it's still a studio. We can't change it. So does that apply to a garage and a guest house?
It may. When we issue the building permit, it'll be very clear, be very specific that it's not a guest house. There'll be conditions on it. And the occupancy permit as well will also have a special condition that it's not to be a separate dwelling unit.
If you look at the plan, there's no kitchen in the garage guest house.
It's labeled kitchen, but it's not a kitchen because it doesn't show a stove.
It doesn't show a stove, that's right.
That doesn't change the possibility of somebody adding a microwave and a,
Well-
but nevertheless, just thank you.
I don't even know what I could add to this conversation, so congratulations.
Well, I'm not voting, but if I were, I would seriously consider voting no, because I like people to write what they're supposed to write. And if that's what it would take for them to, clean up their act, then I would do that, probably. But I'm
Yeah,
not
but that-
voting, so,
Yeah, but that would be punishing the property owner for a mistake made by the architect that has no significance whatsoever.
I could find a way to justify it.
Okay. Paul?
Well, I'll move to approve the application as submitted. We have existing conditions, which we used during the summertime, and I'm trying to think, are they imposed on the house already?
They are on the house.
Okay.
If you wanted to reincorporate them into this decision, that would be.
I would say we'll put our standard conditions on that the board would say all construction activity and vehicles be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner, that between June 30th and Labor Day, no work shall be permitted on the weekends, and construction activity between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only. And thirdly, that this is not a guest house.
Dave Veach seconds.
Yeah, and if you want, I can have Hoyt do new plans that say
It's
garage.
okay, that's okay.
Buck approves.
Paul votes yes.
Dave Thompson votes yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes, that's a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
I think there's something in that. Here we go. Okay, at this time of the year, I'd like to thank folks who have helped us. And I think I put something in writing the other day that we have a support team that's really super, really super. So I'd like to talk about individuals. First, I'd like to talk about Mark Van Bork and Dallas Keller. Mark's our executive producer, and Dallas is our producer. And as we saw today, if there's a glitch, they fix it, and it runs very smoothly. So thank you, gentlemen, very much. Thank you very much. Chantel, I know you. I don't know what your title is, okay? But that's all right. I just call you an administrative facilitator. Is that okay? I just know that you're great. I call you up. I say, hey, Chantel, have you seen so-and-so today? And she'll say, well, as a matter of fact, he's under his desk. And I'll say, well, no, not this gentleman. And no, not at all. And so she'll say, do you want me to drag him out? I said, well, if another hour goes by and he hasn't somehow revived, I think it's a good idea. That's right. So anyway, but she always, she'll make me copies of whatever it is. You get it done. So thank you very much. Jay, I'm convinced that you might have the most difficult job here. It's not that Sarah's isn't difficult or Katie's isn't difficult or whatnot, but it seems to me that folks who aren't happy with the decision and whatnot tend to vent on you. They tend to yell at you, threaten you, and all these other things. And I don't think they quite get to that point with Sarah, but they could very well. Anyway, you are a true professional. And I'm so pleased that we have you as our building commissioner. That's a crazy term, but I know you've had opportunities to go elsewhere. Thank you for not taking them, and thank you for what you do. You're a man of morals, and you're a man of, like I said, a true professional. Katie's not here, but I'd like to thank Katie because she's the person that, she's our COO. I know she's the director, but I don't know what that means. But I know what a COO is. That's a Chief Operating Officer, and that's what she is of this department. And I like two things particularly about her. Number one, she has the back of everybody that works for her, and I think they know it, and they appreciate it. And as I said last year, they actually like her. And I don't think that's true of a lot of people in business. Now, I took all my employees out for dinner last night, and they were very nice to me, but I'm not too sure they like me, but that's okay. And we're not talking about me here, but, there's a big bill, incidentally. So, thank you, Katie, and keep doing it. And now we come to the lady to my right, and I know she hates this. And she's got a brick in her bag, and someday she's going to whack me twice in the hat with the brick, but Sarah, you know, when folks say, why do you think Sarah is so good? I said, it's very simple. Number one, she's very smart. Number two, she has a fantastic work ethic. You know, I mean, who else gets decisions out the next day or the next Monday or whatnot? And I know it bothers you if you don't. But more than all that, and this is true of everybody else that is here, you get it. You understand that you are here to help the builders, the nice lady who just wants a porch, or somebody who wants a 54,000 square foot house, or whatever it might be. You're here to, you know, put them in the right line and show them where they should go. So thank you very much. You are the best, and you know it. And as far as my fellow members, I'm really honored to say I'm the chairman. It's a flattering term considering the quality of all of you. And there's nothing else to say except Mr. Riley wished everybody a Merry Christmas. That was very nice of you, Mr. Riley. Well, how about a Happy New Year? And May 2023 be just a wee bit simpler. May Sarah not have to handle the planning board as she did this year for 7 months. And, you know, whatever it might be, you know, may it be somewhat normal. And with that, Paul?
Well, before I move to adjourn, on behalf of the rest of the board, we thank you for your leadership as chairman. You've done a fantastic job and continue to do so. I will move to adjourn.
And Dave Veach will second.
Aye.
Everybody can vote.
Aye. I will vote yes.
Aye.
I vote yes.
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Veach.
And I will too. See everybody in 2023. Thank you.